It's week 3 of Black History Month here in the UK. Week 3. Imagine. Time is literally flying. Last week's video focused on Black women. So naturally, this week, I want to talk about Black men. Black men. Okay, where do we start? Strong, tough, athletic, big dicks. Pretty standard stereotypes, right? This is what most people would happily assign as suitable descriptions of Black men. And then, of course, you have the more problematic behaviour-related stereotypes that Black men don't care, they can't love or find it difficult to love and be faithful, they can't show emotion or they're just void of emotion, they just want to have sex, they just want to breed children, but yet they aren't there for the children that they do have, they just want to chase pom pom, and yeah, everything, or at least most things, appear to be rooted in sex. Now, of course, there are going to be some men that absolutely fulfill these negative stereotypes, or some at least. And I'm talking men from all races, but that nod of knowing, you know, when someone is all smug with it and is like, told you so, only really becomes a thing when a Black man fulfills the stereotype. It is what's to be expected. Take, for example, if you have a white dude that is being a crappy dad, there are usually a whole bunch of excuses that are thrown up to justify why. Okay, not always, because a cack dad is a cack dad, but it's more likely that excuses will be made for him than for a Black man. Know what I mean? When it comes to non-Black dudes, it isn't uncommon to hear oh, the children's mum is this. Oh, the children's mum is that. Ah, he tries, but he's got a lot of things on his plate. Oh, he's got other kids and blah, blah, blah. All of which may actually hold some weight. But interestingly, Black men are not always automatically afforded the same level of consideration. An observation I think most of us can agree on. Okay, so why are there so many negative stereotypes bestowed onto the Black man? Well, how long you got? Joke. Well, actually, it's only partly a joke because a subject like this is lengthy, so I'll try and keep it tight. We have to take it back to slavery because that is essentially where the stereotypes of Black people began. To justify the institution of slavery, many white slaveholders developed stereotypical beliefs about slaves. It was their way of rationalizing their dominance socially, economically, and politically. The stereotypes created by slaveholders dictated how slaves were to be dealt with, and that was collectively, certainly not on an individual basis, because that would humanize them. Opting to consider slaves as one made it easier for them to be seen as property. Heck, they even had slave patrols in place. These patrols were literally there to ensure that slaves were kept in line, ultimately maintaining white supremacy over them. I mean, God forbid if a slave ran away. These patrols were legally allowed to hunt them down and bring them back to their slave owners. And wherever necessary, they could beat, lynch, or kill them to set an example to the others. That shit hurts my heart. Anyway, other severely detrimental stereotypes created by white slaveholders included this idea that Black men in particular are literally savage beasts that are stronger than other men and thus feel no pain. This is one such stereotype that is very evident today. Also, I think we have to consider how things that happened after slavery helped to reinforce the stereotypes that we are left with today. So following the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 issued in the States by President Abraham Lincoln, which essentially freed slaves, other laws, most notably the Jim Crow laws, popped up to ensure that African Americans were not to benefit from the same rights as white Americans. Can I just say, I think it's important to mention at this point that even though this particular piece of history focuses on African Americans, and I'm here talking as a Black British person, the fallout impacted Black people the world over. Like, let's be real. Wherever you are in the world as a Black person, you know about it. You know you are Black, and thus you are aware you could be subjected to the same level of BS as any other Black person. Just putting that out there. Okay, where was I? So yeah, these laws pretty much stopped African Americans from being educated, which in turn left them with fewer job opportunities, which sadly meant the only way to eat was to hustle. As you can imagine, that just resulted in higher levels of incarceration amongst Black men. It was a vicious circle, and in some ways, a self-fulfilling prophecy, because it's like white people were conditioned to think that Black men are uneducated and act in an unsavory way, but that actually became a forced reality because of circumstances. It really was, and still is, messed up. So anyways, here we are today with much of the same stereotypes still flitting around, but they've been elaborated on. For example, the whole absent black father narrative. It's so played out, it's unreal. Not every black man that has a child is absent and rubbish, but that's a stereotype that was born out of this need and wanting to keep the black man down, and you could see how it would work. It's crazy because when a stereotype becomes so ingrained in society, even the people being stereotyped come to believe some of the hype. Take, for example, the all black men have big wangs thing. Now we know not every black man has a big schlong. In fact, a lot of them are pretty average. Yeah. Some are packing, of course, but not every black man is. But this is a stereotype that even black people subscribe to a point. Okay, so it's not the worst stereotype in the world, but my point is, it's just not true. Therefore, it could have some ramifications. In fact, it definitely does. The expectation for a black man to pull out 8 inches or more is real. But you know what? I'm going to talk about that whole thing on another video because that is muchos. But yeah, the criminalization of black men is real. Stereotypes do all of that. It is the criminalization of black men and the way that they are perceived primarily through the media as our window to society that is the root cause of the senseless murders of black men, the targeting of black men, and the constant attempt to police black men. Let's not even get started on racial profiling because I cannot. But did you know the taller the black man, the more threatening he is perceived to be? Being tall is usually looked upon favorably when it comes to guys, right? But as a black man, it doesn't necessarily benefit him in this respect. It's more likely to benefit a white guy. As a black man, if you're tall, chances are you're more likely to be pulled over, more likely to be arrested, more likely to be harassed by the authorities, all of that. It's mad, isn't it? There is so much. There is so much. I think I'm just going to end this video by saying, as long as people refuse to judge a person, or in this instance, consider a black man based on his individuality, dangerous stereotypes will always have a place in society. And the truth is, I don't know how easy it will be for people to start to take others for who they are rather than who they are programmed to think they are. It's a lot to unpack and undo.